Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I am fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
That was so lackluster from both of us.
I know we're both alive. We'll just say that,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yep.
right?
Um, I think at this point we should disclose to people that this is the third time that we're recording this
This
episode.
episode. Yep.
The, the first time round, your tech failed you
Yep.
and your computer crashed, but we thought we'd got half of it in the bag. And then when you listened back to it, your audio was kind of like in and out, wasn't it?
Yep.
Like,
It was like skipping words and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was last Tuesday. Then we went for a second go around this weekend, got it in the can, and then I went to edit it and realized that my audio was literally unusable, that I was so quiet that I mean, probably some people would have preferred that. But I
Oh
was
no, come on.
so quiet. It was so quiet. I was literally inaudible. And then when I turned it up so that you could actually hear what I was saying, I then became like ridiculously distorted. It either sounded like some home recorded 90s grunge or Neil Armstrong coming in from the moon in 1969. It was just literally unusable. So here we go again. Third time's the charm.
This is some serious dedication here,
But
is what it is.
Tiffany just said to me before she hit record that she was worried about how I was going to get through this because last time I was like racing through it and struggling because I was so bored.
I know you were like, but yeah, so you're right. Third time's the
Third
charm. Let's
time
get this
is
going.
let's get this road on the show. Um,
Wrote on the show.
let's get this road on the show. I don't know why we always do that over here, but it's a thing. We switch it round. It's not just me being delirious.
Really? I
Yeah,
thought you were just being funny.
well, that too.
That's so funny. Wrote on the show.
Let's get this road on the show.
Okay.
What's new? Anything new?
Not really.
I think when you have to think that hard, if there is anything new, there's probably not.
Yeah. Just living life.
Just scraping through, crawling through day by
Yeah.
day.
Trying to survive.
Not that we're feeling dramatic today or anything.
No, we're not.
I'm wearing what's new, which nobody but Tiffany can see because we definitely won't be putting the video up of this one. But the clothing that I teased a couple of episodes ago, I've had some samples delivered just to make sure that I was happy with the quality. And I am. So the Marina clothing, the profits of which will benefit Acto Sicilia, it's coming. It's coming soon. I was hoping to get everything finalised and the shops up and running at the weekend, but life had other plans. But the plan is definitely by the end of this week to have the shops up and live, and so people can start ordering merch ready for the holiday season.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait for the site to be up. I'm so excited.
Well, you've seen one of the hoodies, haven't you? And today
Yeah.
I'm wearing an oversized sweatshirt.
Yeah.
And I think I sent you a picture of some people, I think over here we call it raglan, but for people stateside it would be a baseball shirt.
Oh,
Also
okay.
got a
Like a
yeah,
varsity
like a
shirt.
yeah. And I've actually called the collection the Varsity Collection because it's sort of got like Letterman style lettering
Uh-huh.
on it.
Uh,
Yeah, but there's going to be crew neck t-shirts and vests and sweatshirts and hoodies. There's all that good stuff available.
That's cool. So people who like sports and stuff, they might really get a kick out of the varsity collection part. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
And
that's neat.
and for us Maya fans, some of us are
Yeah,
jocks, some of us like that about her.
yeah, for sure.
And there's also I won't say too much, but there's three collections. There's 3 collections. So,
Okay.
and if you look on our Instagram, there is a picture of me in the hoodie,
Yeah.
which is part of a different collection. But I've done 2 stores. I've done a UK store and I've done a US store. So the delivery times are quicker. It's going to cost you less than postage. And also it's obviously best for the environment. The fewer air miles things have to travel. But there's going to be 2 options. So for people in the US and for people that are closer to the US,
Yeah,
they
for
might like
sure.
to order from that store, whereas people from the UK and our European listeners may prefer to order from the UK store. I believe that the
Yeah.
US store does international shipping anyway. I know the UK store does, and it's really reasonable actually. The cost of
Yeah,
shipping to the
yeah,
US.
you were telling me. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I think it's $6.95. I think it's about £7, which is like $10 or something.
And it's insane.
Yeah, and it's pretty quick. I think it's like 7 days that it takes to get
Okay.
there. Or there's a tracked option that's like £16, which is probably closer to $20. You know, so you've got options
It's
if you
still
want to,
cheap.
which is still pretty cheap, I guess. But
Yeah.
so yeah, you've got options. And I just talked a little bit quickly about the green credentials of the UK store, just because that was one of the main reasons that I went with them. They're based on the Isle of Wight, which is very close to my heart, a place very close to my heart. And they use all green energy. Their factory is run by green energy. The clothing is all certified organic cotton. Some of their clothes are made of recycled cotton. And when you get sick of your clothes, if it's their clothes, if it's T-Mill or Rapa Nui clothing, when you're done with it, instead of putting it into landfill, just throwing it in the bin, if you write to them and say, I'm done with this shirt of yours, they'll send you a free post label. You can send it back to them free post and they'll recycle it. So
That's so cool that they do that.
yeah. So I mean, I live on the coast, and you know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
surf and all the stuff, and I'm kind of a hippy dippy, very clean living, love the planet. So as we all should, and so their ethos very much matches my own. So I'm really excited to be partnering with them for the
Yeah.
UK side of the collection. But
And the stuff just looks amazing too, from what you've shown me.
yeah, it's really lovely quality, the clothing, and it just feels nice. You can tell it's good quality. It feels great. It looks great. I'm really, really pleased. So, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the shops to go live. Just need for things to line up this week so that I can, so that I can let everything go live
Yeah.
and let you guys know.
Awesome. Very, very cool. And I know Stefania will appreciate it for sure.
Well, I like to do my bit.
I know it means a lot. You know, it's something very near and dear to her heart. So I know it means a lot to her. Like when I had her sign the extra autographs in Italy, and I told her that I was gonna auction them off for Octo Cecilia, she teared up.
Which we still
And
need to do, but there's just so much
yeah,
red tape with that because technically it's classed as gambling when we sell stuff. So we have to make sure that
yeah,
we comply with all of the gambling regulations. So it's a headache.
yeah.
but
So
we'll do it. We'll get it done. We'll get it done. It's just one of the many things on our laundry list. Oh God. Oh, we had an email. And I know you know that we've had this email because this will be the 3rd time that I've read this email to
we've
you.
talked, we've talked
We've
about said
talked about
email.
this
Yeah,
email. And it's going to be the 3rd time that I apologize for butchering this person's name because it looks very pretty written down, but I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't even know the etymology of the name, where it comes from, or I could have a stab pronunciation, but I'm going to go with Araceli. Feel free to send me a follow-up email and tell me that I'm butchering your name and tell me phonetically how to say it, because I always appreciate learning things. I don't mind being
yeah,
told that I'm wrong as long as someone tells me how to be right.
right.
So please feel free to email me, tell me where your lovely, lovely name comes from and how to say it correctly. But Araceli says, I don't have anything really important to say other than to express a bit of appreciation towards you two. I've just gotten off a 96-hour shift. Yes, you read right, LOL. I'm crazy that way. What do you do? What do you do that you work 96 hours and call that a shift? I call that a week.
Yeah.
96 hours.
Hmm.
That's mad. So please send me a follow-up email because now I want to know what you do for a living. um, But she says, yes, she's crazy that way. I wanted to say thank you to the both of you, Tiffany and Melissa. The podcast is the highlight of my late nights at work. You both make my days or nights at work so much better. The love for Station 19 and Marina and everything in between is awesome, hilarious, and brilliant. I love every bit of it. Thank you both for your time, dedication, and effort to bring us these amazing breakdowns and the podcast in general. It truly puts a smile on my face, which is very hard to do. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, and I will never look at a pair of cherries the same. Thanks, Tiffany.
I'm sorry.
That thanks was definitely sarcastic because
Sarcasm for
she
sure.
put the thanks in capital letters.
Yeah, it was definitely. Yeah, I know. My bad. It was the only thing I could think of. It was the only comparison I could think of at the moment.
Okay, well now the only thing we can think of and the only comparison we make when we see cherries,
Is man bits.
yes. So you've ruined soft stone fruit for many of us.
Well, we're always recording at like wee hours in the morning here, and I can't help it. The cherries is all I could think of. My bad.
I think as a group we will consider accepting your apology.
Okay, as long as it's so funny that that's still being brought up though. The cherries, that's hilarious.
Yeah, you're never going to live it down, and neither will the rest of us, to be perfectly frank.
No.
Oh dear. Right. Shall we get to it and for the third bloody time discuss
Let's do it.
episode 206, Last Day on Earth?
Do, 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 do. Yep, let's do it.
Thank you. That's all that had been missing from my morning was your delightful singing.
Of course, I know you like it.
Okay, the air date of this originally was the 8th of the 11th, 2018. It was written by Philip Iskoff, who also wrote 109 Hotbox, which is one of my favourite episodes. Don't know how you
Okay.
feel about
Yeah, that was a good. No, that was a good episode.
It was a good
Yeah,
one,
that
wasn't
was a good episode. Yeah.
His final writing credit will come later in this season. So this was the middle of 3 episodes.
Yeah, 3. Okay.
The filling in his Station 19 sandwich, if you will. Can you tell it's coming up to lunchtime?
I don't know why I thought that was so funny. So that was.
It was directed by Steve Robin. He's a long-standing director in the sort of the Greys and the wider Shondaland family, going back to 2012. He's directed episodes of Private Practice, Greys, Scandal.
Wow, impressive.
Yeah. I didn't see anything for him directing How to Get Away with Murder or Bridgerton, but I think that those might be the only 2 credits that he's sort of Shondaland credits that he's missing. So this is a guy they trust with their shows.
Awesome.
And overall, I don't think that Philip Iskoff and Steve Robin did a bad job. I thought it was a pretty solid episode.
You're lying.
No, I thought it was a pretty solid episode. I think the last one I didn't like, but this one I thought was okay. It was kind of frenetic. It was a little bit all over the show, wasn't it?
Kind of hard to follow at times.
Yeah, to the extent that when you and I were recording the previous episode's podcast, I kind of said to you, didn't I? I'm not sure how we're going to figure this out with like the incident, where to put Ben, where to put the incident. And so we decided in the end to put Ben's story kind of or put the incident rather kind of in the middle of Ben's block, didn't we?
Yes.
But yeah, no, apart from the fact that for the format of this podcast, it was difficult to break down. I thought it was pretty solid. Shall we start with Jack on this one?
Jacko.
Because there wasn't a great deal there, but it was a little bit of Jack kind of as like a vehicle for moving his storyline on, wasn't there? So we got two significant scenes, I think. So we see him yawning, telling Vic that he isn't sleeping much, and he says that he hopes it's nothing, but this used to happen to him as a kid. And they don't get any further with that conversation because they're then interrupted by Sullivan. And then later we see him having fallen asleep in the engine on the way back from a call. And we get a look into his dreams, which are him basically reliving all of the near misses that he had leading up to the skyscraper, and then the skyscraper incident itself. And then we see him wake up with a start, all sweaty, and he thinks that his pass device has been going off while he was sleeping. It has not. He's just, imagining it. But that's it for Jack. So again, there wasn't anything substantive there. I think it's just moving it along for us, kind of saying, don't forget Jack's having these struggles. What do you think?
No, I agree. There wasn't really a lot. It was just kind of almost like an obligatory, we have to put this in kind of type thing.
Yeah, we have to keep your mind on this. Watch this space. There's more coming.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So shall we then move on to Vic and Ripley?
Oh, yes. That makes me happy.
They are so lovely. Ripley technically isn't in the episode, but we hear a lot of him. And Vic wakes up to see his uniform on the chair in her bedroom. She's got a nearly clean chair.
Mm-hmm.
She's got a nearly clean chair. See, it's not just us. Even Vic's got a nearly clean chair. Ripley's uniform is on it, and she hears him in the shower. So she does the only reasonable thing that you can do in this situation, apparently, which is to rush out of bed, throw some clothes on, and escape quickly before he gets out of the shower.
Of her own apartment.
Pardon?
Of her own apartment.
Of her own apartment. Exactly. What are you eating?
You're such a foodie. A wafer.
Oh, that looks nice. I am. What you guys don't know is that a lot of the stuff that I cut out is Tiffany eating. Tiffany snacks through our podcast recordings, and what gets cut out most of the time is me going, "What are you eating now? What is it now? What have you got now? Is that pizza? What's on your pizza?"
It keeps me awake to eat. That's how I used to make it through when I worked midnight shifts at work. I would eat and eat and eat to keep me awake.
So yeah, it's that looks like a nice wafer.
They're kind of stale, but they're okay.
Dip it in. Get yourself like a cup of cocoa or something. I'd say a latte, but you don't drink coffee. And Mountain Dew. Of course, you've got Mountain Dew. But no, I think that would be. Let's soften it up. Dip it in a cup of cocoa. Winning.
Yeah. Winning.
Right, where were we before I got distracted by food? Yes. At 19, Vic asks Jack for advice on adult sleepovers.
Who would do that?
Ask Jack for advice on adult sleepovers?
Yeah.
Well, I think Jack, first of all, I have to pause at the phrase adult sleepover, which I'm enjoying greatly. And if I still had adult sleepovers, I would use the term adult sleepovers. I've had an adult sleepover with the same adult for the last 15 years, so no more adult sleepovers for me. But Jack, Jack's probably, I think he's a good person to ask. I'm imagining that out of everybody at the station, Jack has probably had the most adult sleepovers.
The most one-night stands?
Yes.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, maybe he's a good person to ask. So she says that in a hypothetical situation, if a girl ran out on him after said adult sleepover whilst he was in the shower, what would he think? Jack cracks Vic's ingenious code and says that she obviously doesn't, not the hypothetical, but she obviously doesn't like the guy very much. And she says, no, it's not that. She just didn't want to be late for work. And it was a very good sleepover, but it's complicated. And Jack says that sneaking out is like leaving the scene of a crime and that she can't run forever. And eventually she's going to have to talk to this guy.
Which I was impressed by his advice.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
See, he was the right guy to ask.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then later in the locker room, towards the end of the shift, it appears, Jack asks Vic if she's going to call Mr. Hypothetical back, and she sort of stumbles over her words. And Jack says that she obviously does care about him, and she admits that she might care a little bit. And then with that, her phone rings. Jack picks it up to hand it to her, and he sees on the screen that it's Ripley calling. Dun, dun, dun. So, why did she run?
I want to know why she put him on her phone as Ripley, first of all.
Well, they've only just started having... That was their first adult sleepover.
I know, but I still would have put a code name in there. Like, adult sleepover, buddy. Something. I don't know. I think she's just scared of the commitment and what it might mean.
Yeah.
I think that's why. And she just wasn't ready to face it.
Yeah.
But I don't think she did it because she doesn't have feelings for him.
No. It's probably quite the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I think in situations like this, for me, it would help to know... This is when I want to know the characters' ages, because I think maybe that might have something to do with it. And I know you and I tried to kind of work out how old we think she might be, Vic. Not Barrett, obviously. IMDb tells us that. But Vic, because we were trying to figure out when we like, oh, well, she was recruited out of college and she's been at 19 for, 2 years or however long they did say, didn't they, on the season opener of season 2? Yeah, how long she'd been at 19. So we tried to figure it out, and I think we figured that she was probably in her early to mid-20s, didn't we?
Yeah.
So maybe it's like an age and experience thing too. Maybe that's why she's just not emotionally mature enough to stick around and deal and like have a chat about it. Like her instinct is just to like get out of Dodge.
Yeah. But we never saw her do that with Jackson, though. He was always the one that was gone and left with her coffee.
Yeah, that was probably more to do with his working hours, though, than the fact that he was leaving the scene of a crime, as it were. Do you think?
True. Like he had to be at the hospital.
Yeah. I don't have a great deal more to say about Vic at this point and Ripley. Do you?
No.
No? Shall we move on to the ray of sunshine himself, Captain Robert Sullivan?
Sunshine. You're so funny. Sweetenly.
Okay. So we see him having a sit down with Pruitt in his office, which we learn was Ripley's suggestion, so that Pruitt could impart some wisdom to Sullivan on how to better connect with his team. So Pruitt's first suggestion, which is to share mealtimes with them, is very quickly dismissed by Sullivan. And then Pruitt suggests taking more of an interest in their lives outside of work and says that Sullivan needs to figure out who the glue of the station is and then get them on side so that the rest of the team will follow. So Jack and Vic are the first victims of Sullivan's charm offensive, and they're cleaning windows when they're interrupted by him coming over to ask how things are going with them. So Vic starts to give him an update on their chores, but Sullivan stops her, saying that he meant how's it going for them in life in general. And then in a very stiff manner, he asks if they've got hobbies, plans, or significant others, and shares with them that on his days off, he likes to make homemade smoothies. And then a call comes in, so Jack and Vic think that they're saved, but Sullivan says that he hopes they get to have more of a chat on the road.
I loved Vic's reaction in this episode when she was like, I don't know how to answer that question. Like she was so taken off guard that she was like, I don't know.
And then the partner thing, nope, no, definitely no partner, none of those, nah, nine. She
Yeah.
was, yeah. Um, what Sullivan hasn't been aware of is that for the whole of the day, Andy has been dreading having a conversation with him about her insubordination during the training day. So when she's finally called into his office, she launches into a speech about all the amazing saves she's had that day, doing the job she loves. And she says that whilst he might have some ideas about how he wants to handle the situation, he should know that she won't go down without a fight. And then he says that he did think about demoting her, but whilst he's tough, he doesn't want to be unfair and that he was also to blame during that incident. And he would like to have the genuine respect of the crew, which he believes
Uh-huh.
has to start with Andy. So he
Uh-huh.
suggests that they sit down and have a coffee together outside of work when they won't be interrupted.
There was definitely a little bit of spice in some parts of that scene, for
Yes.
sure.
Yes, there was definitely
Yes.
some sparkage going on.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
where did Andy as the glue come from? I remember hearing this phrase in the party bus episode, and one of the party mums says, "I'm the glue of the group," and Andy's like, "Yeah, I'm the glue of the station." And at that time, everyone hated her because she'd been sleeping with Jack. So
I've been thinking about it, and I'm wondering if it's because it was like her father's legacy, and so it's like she's kind of been at that house most of her life, and so it's just assumed that she's just the glue because of her history, maybe.
yeah,
But I don't know.
but I would argue whether at this stage she's actually the glue because it doesn't feel like a very together situation at this point. I don't think it seems
She
like
doesn't have to
there's
be like super glue. She could be like those Elmer glue sticks that we used in school that like barely stuck to anything.
we call it Pritt stick.
You do?
Yeah, I
You
know
know what I'm
exactly.
talking about? Those glue sticks, but they like never worked, like
No,
never stuck.
no.
Yeah,
What,
maybe
what?
she's like that
Yeah,
glue stick.
yeah. What we used to do with those glue sticks is we would wind them up all the way and then flick the bottom part and then see if we could get it to flip over and stick glue side down. And that is
Okay, have you guys ever? I'm gonna be so judged for this, but when we were in middle school, we had the liquid Elmer's glue, and we would put it, we would smear it all over our hands, and then we pick it off. Just see if we could pick it off in like one big piece
oh,
off of
like
our
peel it
hand.
off and then you get
Yeah,
like a you can see like all the little
yeah,
fingerprints, like all the little lines
we
on you.
used to do that. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I definitely don't
it
know what
was
you're
fun.
talking about to the extent that I could relay that to you in detail. No, definitely never done that.
You picked glue off your hands too.
Maybe. um, yeah, so maybe she can maybe be a Pritt stick at this point. I'm not saying that later on she's not going to become very sticky and become a very effective glue, but right now, Pritt stick / Elmer glue is maybe all I will give her, and I'm feeling generous at giving her that. But
Okay.
do you think that Sullivan actually thinks she's the glue, or do you think it's just an excuse to ask her out for coffee?
No, I think both,
Okay.
because even if he thought she was the glue, he could have just sat her down and talked to her about it. I know, because he was like, "Let's do it where we don't get any interruptions," but they could have. I mean, they had the discussion when she thought she was going to face disciplinary action, and with that, and, in his office. So why couldn't they have that conversation in his office?
Exactly. He just wants to ask her out and make
Yeah.
it sound not creepy. And let's face it, he's
Okay.
already got Maya in his corner. If it was all about getting the team to trust him, he could just work on Maya a little bit more and get Maya to back him up a little bit more because she's already been doing so. So I think he just wants to take Andy out on a date.
Well, can you blame the guy? She's a hot Latina.
Can't say as I've ever looked at her in that way, but
Okay, fine. Just be that way.
I'm not saying she hasn't got a pretty face. But I kind of liked Sullivan in this episode. I like the stiffness the way that he asked
Yeah, it
Jack
was
and
funny.
Vic. It was like he'd written a list down on his hand. Do you
Yeah,
have
he
any
was like,
hobbies? Any interests? Any plans? Like any
and he
significant
was so
others?
he was so awkward about it. He was like plans outside of life, and then they were like, no, do you, Captain? And he was like, yeah, I make smoothies.
Like,
It was just like, this is the most thankful, like, excited conversation ever.
yeah. It reminded me of like when you start a new job or something, and they make you go around the room and say something interesting about yourself. And when you're put on the spot like that, you're like, oh my god, what's something interesting about me? And the most interesting thing that he could think of at that time was that he makes smoothies.
Yeah, it was funny.
Bless him. Yeah, it was like he'd Googled like icebreaker questions or something. Do you have any interests? Do you have any plans? But can you hear him?
Sorry, I was talking to your cat.
That's quite right. You can hear him. I just had him in here,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't want to be here. I tried to give him a cuddle, and he was like, "Put me down. I don't want to be vulnerable."
Well, he changed his mind.
What's wrong, you murdering little psychopath? He wants me to let him out so that he can go and kill stuff. 2 secs.
Oh, God. Okay.
He's good at killing stuff. He's a prolific murderer.
That's comforting.
Yeah. And I think the last time we recorded this, you mentioned that you were impressed with how he handled the Andy situation. And like, I think the phrase you used was he humbled himself.
Yes, I agree. I agree with myself.
You agree, you agree with Tiffany past?
I do.
You still think she
I
has
did.
a good point?
I did think he humbled himself very much so. Because we at this point we've seen him this like tough, hardcore exterior who kind of could I got the vibe could see no wrong in himself.
Yeah.
And so when he was like, I'm strict, but I like to be fair, I was very impressed by that statement.
Yeah, absolutely. And admitting that he was just as much to blame.
Yeah.
Which, on that subject, do you remember him ever apologizing to Maya for humiliating her and doing what he did? Do you remember if he does that in any upcoming episodes?
No.
I don't think he does. I don't think he apologizes to her.
No, I don't think he does either.
She's owed one. She's owed an apology.
Spoiler alert, I do think he kind of makes up for it by advocating for her to stay at 19.
Yes. I will give him that.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Do we have anything more to say for the fine dude, as per Dean Miller's description of him, that is Robert Sullivan?
No.
Shall we
No, I
move
think
on to your favourite father-son pairing of Ryan and Greg?
oh God, let's just get it over with.
Right. I will try to speak at a speed that is acceptable for an audible medium, but also
Right.
acceptable for us, considering this is the third friggin' time that we're hearing it. Okay, here we go. Andy and Ryan are in a cafe. They're waiting for Ryan's dad, where he is late to a meeting that they're having with him. Ryan says that he thinks that meeting with his dad is a bad idea because he always feels like his dad's playing him and he's not prepared to wait any longer, and so they leave. We then see Greg come staggering through the door of 19. He's battered, he's bruised, he's bleeding, and he's asking for Pruitt, who apparently used to help him out on the regular when he got beaten up. It's clearly a common occurrence for him. And he starts to explain to Andy that he was on his way to meet her and Ryan at the coffee shop that morning, but he doesn't get to finish his story because Maya comes through and starts helping Andy out, checking Greg over, and they get him to the lounge. And Maya wants to get him to a hospital, but he refuses to go, and he just wants them to patch him up. And he says that he doesn't want Ryan seeing him like that, but sorry, Andy's already phoned him, so he's on his way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So Ryan turns up just as his dad's trying to leave, and he's angry with his dad, assuming the worst, saying that the reason his dad won't go to the hospital is because they'll ask too many questions there. But Greg tries to tell him and Andy what actually happened was that he was trying to stop a kid from getting set upon by a couple of guys who then turned on him instead. But Ryan asks if he gave a statement to the cops saying the same, and Greg says he didn't stick around for that because he doesn't get along with cops particularly well, and that the universe clearly has quite the sense of humour, making his son a cop. But Ryan doesn't believe his dad's story and asks who he owes money to. Greg tries to apologise for standing him up that morning, says he'll make it up to him, but Ryan says that his dad's always good at the apologising part because he's had so much practice at it. And then Pruitt comes in and kind of gently calms things down. Greg's trying to make small talk about how big the kids are, but Pruitt's more interested in the whereabouts of the lawnmower he lent him 3 years prior. And
then I love it how he's like, it's in the garage, and Ryan's like, no, it's not. It's not in the garage.
so petty. No, it isn't. But then Pruitt takes over Andy's patch-up job whilst she's called out in the aid car. And during that time, Pruitt straps Greg's ankle and they have a chat about Pruitt going back to work. And Greg suggests that if Pruitt can't come back in an official capacity, maybe he should find a way around it, much to Ryan's displeasure, who says that his dad's always trying to find a way around everything, and that even showing up at 19 injured was a workaround to make people feel bad for him, to get around Ryan being mad at him. So Greg at this point starts to bite back, saying that he's sick of Ryan blaming him for something that he didn't do. And so Pruitt shoves a thermometer in his mouth and tells him to keep it shut until he gets back, and then further diffuses the situation by making Ryan go with him to get ice for Greg's ankle. When Andy gets back from her call, she decides that she's going to weigh in as well and tells Greg that Ryan wants her opinion of him and that she made her mind up about him a long time ago. She doesn't consider him a parent. He's just a guy that shows up, overstays his welcome and leaves, making everyone feel worse than they did before he turned up, and that he screwed Ryan up because Ryan can't rely on the one person in the world who's supposed to protect him. She says that Greg broke Ryan's trust and his ability to trust, which is something that he carries through every relationship in his life and carry with him every day. And Ryan has heard this whole thing, but before he can get into it with Andy, she's called out yet again, leaving Ryan and Greg to basically continue a fight that neither one is ever going to win. Ryan asked, it just went on and on, didn't it? Ryan asks Greg over and over again why he's back now, and he doesn't like any of the answers he's given, until Greg finally admits that he's on borrowed time until something that he did in Florida catches up with him, and he's put away for a very long time. And he says that he just wanted to show up for once while he still could, to tell Ryan in person that he's proud of him. But he says that he'll see himself out. And then as Greg leaves, Ryan gets a call from one of his colleagues to say that a report's just been filed and that, in fact, his dad was telling the truth when he said that he stopped a boy from being victimised earlier that day and so took a beating himself. Maya and Andy then arrive back from their latest of about 86 calls to find Greg collapsed in a lift/elevator for my friends on the other side of the pond. It's touch and go for a while, but they managed to bring him around, much to Ryan's relief. And we close out this block with Ryan sitting at his dad's hospital bedside. We made it.
I didn't think it wasn't too boring of an interaction. It wasn't the worst. Some of it was more of the same.
Yeah.
But I liked the scene that when he's found in the elevator and Andy and Maya kind of come to the rescue. I liked that scene. Yes. And how Ryan was there with him. I really liked that part.
Yeah, that part was good. I liked that Greg got his redemption. It turned out he really was on the up and up this time. But, you know, the boy that cried wolf and all that. Ryan wasn't completely out of line. For me, this this was the kind of the worst bit of the episode for me. It just dragged on quite a bit with all the fighting, I thought.
Yeah.
It was just like bickering match after bickering match after bickering match. And for me, I just think that one big epic fight would have been more effective than a day full of mindless bickering.
Well, it turns into like almost like tit for tat, right? Like, well, you did this, well, you did that, well, you did this, well, you did that. And
Yeah.
so it's like, yeah,
Yeah. And so that
I can
just
see what
like
you're
got a
saying.
little bit annoying for me. And it's like, oh, and we're back to the bickering. And then we go somewhere else.
Yeah,
Oh, and we're back to the bickering. And it never
yeah,
seemed to like
yeah,
move on. It was just, can we just have
yeah.
like a big old fight? Everyone get everything out. Someone throw something. Let's have it, but let's just get a big stinking argument. I really like the way that they handled in season 6 Maya and Karina on the roof. Let's just have a
I was just gonna say, let's have a roof fight and it'll be
yeah,
over.
just a nice big
Yeah,
stand up, drag out, everyone say what's on their mind. In the end, Maya does throw something. Karina slams the door. Well, it took them a little while to resolve the fight, but I'm just saying, like, that's like that for me is more effective than just like me 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 all day
yeah,
long.
yeah. I agree, 100%.
Was Andy's rant justified?
I think so. I mean, she's been friends with Ryan for how long? Most of their life, and she
Yeah,
has seen the pattern of his father. She knows what he's been through, what he's put him through. So I think she was defending Ryan and really trying to make him understand what he's done to Ryan and why Ryan is reluctant
yeah.
to give him insight. So I thought it was very fair.
Also, it's affected her personally. I mean, when she says that,
Yeah,
Ryan, you broke his trust and you ruined his ability to
yeah,
trust, I think she was very much talking about herself and her relationship with Ryan when she said, oh, he carries it through every relationship. I think that that's another way of
I do
saying,
too.
I suffer because of stuff that you've done. Like,
Like we can't be together because he can't trust.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was probably justified. I'm with you. I think that it's that thing as well of I think I've said this before about other situations that we've discussed. Sometimes it needs somebody from the outside to tell you what's going on,
Yes.
because if people are too close, then you don't necessarily see the value in what they're saying for one reason or
Right.
another. Like, oh,
Yeah.
Ryan's just, he's just still an angry little kid with me inside. And so therefore, he just always does this. It's a father-son relationship. He might, there are all the ways that he can justify with himself Ryan's reaction. Whereas if he hears it from Andy, who, it appears that he's got precious little relationship with because he didn't even recognize her when she first walked into
Right.
19, to hear it from someone from the outside who's not close to the situation, that maybe, has more of an effect, because it's almost like it's someone that's seeing it from a distance,
Yeah.
someone that doesn't necessarily have so much skin in the game.
I agree for sure. 100%.
Um, the bit that I did enjoy of this is Pruitt being shown to be the patriarch again.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it was quiet strength from him. He's just
I didn't
very,
realize how much I missed Pruitt actually until we started watching these again. He was a good addition to the show.
yes. And what I really love about Pruitt is the fact that he is far from a perfect man.
Yeah.
He's the captain, but they don't make him this unimpeachable hero. They don't put him on a pedestal. Like, there are things that he does and decisions that he makes where you're just like, you're a jerk, man. Like, that was a jerk
Yeah.
thing to do. Like, that's decidedly uncool. But he at his heart is such a good man. Doesn't necessarily always go about things the right way, but he's always trying to do the right thing. And and in this situation, he doesn't escalate things. There's a lot of like yelling going on, there's a lot of raised voices, and he just very quietly comes in, patches Greg up, takes Ryan out for a timeout.
Yeah. Let's get you out of this situation.
Yeah. It's
Yep. Yep.
just very quietly taking the heat out of the situation,
Yeah.
just with his
It
calm
was smart.
presence. So that was my favorite part. And so again, Pruitt's showing himself to be Ryan's true father figure, really, and acting like the dad that Ryan needs.
I agree. And I think that Ryan respects him as that too.
Yes, that he is the one that has Ryan's respect. It's clearly not his
Yeah.
actual father.
Right. For sure.
Shall we move on to Andy and Maya?
Of course.
There we go. That's perked her up. Here we go. So we start out with Andy and Maya in the turnout room. Maya asks Andy if she's seen Sullivan yet, telling her that she has Andy's back, but Andy says not to have it too hard because there's no point in Sullivan being mad at both of them. And Andy's worried that she's going to get fired, but Maya, queen of the silver lining, says that the good news is they live together now. So even if she does get fired, they're still going to see each other all the time. Don't worry about your career ending up in the toilet. We can still hang out.
Right. We'll still be besties.
Yeah. They are in the aid car together that day. And Maya quite prophetically says that maybe they'll get called out so many times that Sullivan won't have time to yell at Andy. And Andy is saying hopefully a lot of people will get hurt and need their help, which Maya says is disturbing, but she's supportive of.
That was one of my favorite lines of the whole episode.
With that, Sullivan calls them to a lineup, and the whole team is talking about him potentially screaming at Andy while she is right there. And Dean says that the worst is when he yells at you while staring at you because his eyes can see right into your soul.
Yeah.
And Sullivan makes his way down the line before stopping right in front of Andy and looking at her for a good 5 seconds before he turns his attention to Warren and walks away. So Andy thinks that she's got away with it until they all break off and they start their cleaning tasks. And Sullivan barks at her that he wants to see her privately in his office. But before they can have the conversation, she and Maya are called out to an incident. So when they come back, yay! So when they come back, Dean, Warren, and Travis have scrubbed the engine until it looks like it's fresh out of the showroom. At which point, Maya and Andy, they come back absolutely covered in dust, regaling everybody with a story of how their medical call turned into a gas explosion. They were chopping their way through walls, which explains the dust. And then they proceed to rub their filthy little bodies all over the very shiny engine before the boys send them both for showers. And then Andy gets sidetracked seeing her dad in reception, which is when we discover that Sullivan has asked him to come in. Maya and Andy get called out again. This time it's to a hiking trail where a guy's fallen off the path and is badly injured. And they ingeniously find him. They were very clever on this call. I have to say it was a clever call. They ingeniously find him by getting him to turn up some music he's got playing, and they follow the sound to his location. And they end up harnessing up and abseiling down a ravine to rescue him. Tiffany's shaking her head and kind of letting out quite a deep sigh. She's now looking into space. What are the theatrics for?
Baseball caps and harnesses.
Baseball caps and harnesses.
That's what we might have to call this episode: baseball caps and harnesses. And
that's what you want to call it?
We should call it that.
We can call it that. Baseball caps and harnesses. Yes, so donned in baseball caps and harnesses. They abseil down the ravine to rescue him, but because the area they're in is so remote, all communication signals are bad, so they can't get hold of anybody to help them get this chap out of the ravine. So in the second of their genius ideas, they winch him up using the tow bar on his own truck. And which
was genius by Maya, by the way.
It was absolute genius. So as they climb back into the aid car, Andy says how annoying it is that they've rappelled into a ravine, scaled the side of a mountain with a man and a tree attached to him, and that the medevac helicopter guys are going to be the ones that get all the glory just by basically like taxiing this guy to hospital.
Yeah, flying him there. Right.
Maya agrees and says it's been a fun day, and Andy says it's a good job because it might be her last day on Earth. I mean, that might be slightly
A little bit dramatic.
Slightly dramatic, yeah. But Maya tries but fails to make Andy feel better about it, saying that she won't be fired for yelling because she's done way worse stuff than that before. And then Maya realizes that she should quit while she's ahead and starts driving them back to the station where they will then save Greg's life. And we finish out the block with Maya and Andy laying on top of one of the trucks in the barn. And Andy says that she thinks she might have stepped in it with Ryan, but at least she and Maya had a good work day with lots of calls. And Maya jokes that if it was her last day, at least it was a good one. And asks if she can have Andy's locker if she does leave, because it's perfectly positioned between the washing machine and the bathroom.
I love the top of the truck talks. I wish they did more of those.
They
laying down the
need to
top of the
do
trucks.
more of those. It feels kind of like a slumber party.
It does, yeah.
It feels like that kind of high school, like not a care in the world, just bundle in with your friends.
Yeah,
It feels really nice. And then Vic comes along and adds to the kind of slumber party feel because she bounces in and joins them and tells Andy good luck with Sullivan because he's in a super weird mood today. At which point he appears on the walkway asking Andy if she's ready to talk.
Which, did you notice how chipper Vic was after her Ripley chat?
Yes, I did.
Extremely chipper.
She was in a very good mood.
Yes, she was.
So I remember the last episode we recorded, which was the training day one, the whole like CPR thing with the coppers. And you said that you loved Maya and Andy's relationship in that episode, which was kind of Andy barging into the bathroom and then like having Maya's back.
Yeah.
I love their relationship in this episode. I love it when they're like this, when they're working together and everything is like smooth and lovely between them and they just complement each other so well.
Yeah.
Do you think that the reason that they worked so well together, so brilliantly and so cooperatively on this call or on these calls is because there was no one there to impress?
It could be. They could just be themselves around each other. I mean, they both know what they're capable of.
Because when you look back to the calls, like previous calls in this season, the two that spring to mind immediately are the sewer call.
Right, where she, yeah.
And the hoarder call. They did not work well together at all. And I have to say, it was Andy that was quite sort of combative. So, you know, at the sewer call, she literally leapt into Maya's place and was trying to insert herself everywhere. I can harness up. I can take point on this. And then at the hoarder call, she wasn't very happy that Maya chose a different path than she would have chosen. So I wonder if the reason that they worked so well together on this one is because it was literally just the two of them. And so Andy didn't feel any kind of professional jealousy or like she had to...
like threatened or anything?
Yeah, didn't feel threatened by Maya because it was just the two of them.
Yeah.
And also...
just the two of us.
We can make
it. Yeah, just the two of us.
You and
I. Hey, look at us go.
We've got a future, mate, I'm telling you. Also, Andy might think that this is her swan song because she keeps talking about how it's her last day.
Right.
So I guess maybe she could just relax and enjoy it and not worry about how this is going to reflect on her and what effect it might have on her future, possibly. I don't know. Just my 2 cents.
2.
Just the 2. But I'm hoping to see like more of this kind of camaraderie and more of this like lovely working relationship in season 7 now, because again, there's no professional jealousy now because Andy's kind of bunny hopped over Maya. She's usurped Maya. She's now the captain of 19. So unless Andy's new worry is that Maya's going to snap at her heels and try and make her way up the professional ladder again, and starts with that silliness again. We might see more of this, because when you think back to the pilot, they talked about running 19 together and talked about what they were going to do and how they were going to change things when they run 19 together. They can do that now because Andy's captain, Maya's lieutenant, and so maybe we can see more of this loveliness that we see in this episode in future episodes.
Why is it 2 cents and not like 4 cents or 3 cents or 5 cents? Why is it my 2 cents?
You raise a very good question that I don't know the answer to.
Okay. I wanted to know.
Squirrel, do you have anything more to say about Andy and Maya?
Oh, that.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I like their working camaraderie as well.
Yeah.
They make a very good team when they're not trying to compete with each other, when they're trusting each other, because there's definitely a level of trust that they have in each other. And also on that call, Andy was the only lieutenant. Maya wasn't lieutenant yet, right?
She was not.
So it was kind of like Maya, I felt like Maya respected her for that, but she also felt freely enough to give her opinion, and Andy respected her opinion. And so I agree, professionally, they worked very well together,
It
too.
felt like they were equals. You just said that, like, Andy was the lieutenant on the call. That didn't even occur to me. It just felt like they were equals.
Mm-hmm. It did. Like they respected each other's skill sets.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. I think I'm ready to move on to Ben, if you are.
Okay, Benjamin Warren.
I'd just like to say that I'm really proud of you that you didn't go on a for the benefit of people that don't have the video, Tiffany just went to take a bite of banana, and the whole banana just very comedically and slowly toppled sideways out of its skin. And she missed her mouth.
I did. My mouth was wide open, and it was like, well,
it amused me.
What was your question?
No, I just wanted to praise you, because the last time we recorded this episode, oh God, I can't believe this is the third time. You'd think we'd be more polished since this is the third time. Just goes to show that we're not that well prepped. We do just go for it. We do just dive in and see what happens. But last time we recorded this episode, you went on a very excited tangent about the whole harness situation. And
I did. I spent a very long time talking about the hats.
You were very focused on those harnesses. I suggested, I believe, that you and Bailey should form some sort of fan club.
A Harness Anonymous club.
Yeah. But that was going to be an interesting portion for me to edit. So I'd just like to.
But I actually think that the hats do it for me more than the harnesses, though. The baseball caps, they do it for me more than the harness.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just in case anybody was wondering.
Okay. Right. Before it does
before it does turn into that.
Yeah, before it descends into debauchery again, which was going to be very interesting for me to edit last time around. Let's just move on to Benjamin Warren, who was wearing neither a baseball cap nor a harness during this episode. So
I'll be fine.
When we first meet him in this episode, he's doing a Maya, and he is running through his pain. Bless him.
Yes.
Whilst we flash back to images of his relationship with Miranda. And then he arrives in the beanery all sweaty to hear Jack groaning. And we see him lying on the floor in the lounge saying that he went for a run, but now his legs are dead. And Ben stretches him out. And that has absolutely nothing to do with Ben's storyline. But Jack's face made me, that whole situation just made me laugh so much. I just selfishly had to bring it up because I enjoyed it.
It was so relatable, though. Like, that's how I feel when I exercise. Like, I'm dying.
Oh God, I will be after this latest bout of injuries when I go back. I can see that not going well. So Yeah, maybe I'm feeling empathy for Jack because I know that's going to be me.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I've got someone to pull me up off the floor and help me out with my stretching. We then see Warren again staring into space in the beanery, and Dean notices and says he knows how Warren feels about wanting alone time, that he misses having sort of solitude and time to think since Jack moved in with him, and that his space means a lot to him to the extent that he doesn't even really like hugs. And then Travis walks in saying that he thinks personal space is overrated. And then Vic struts in, and Dean says that he's pretty sure he spotted some swagger, which she denies a little bit too much, quite vociferously. But Travis says very proudly that Dean's probably picking it up from him because he's super swaggery. And
Yeah.
then he pontificates about his swagger whilst we leave poor Warren there continuing to stare into the distance.
Yeah.
And Vic, to her credit, asks if he's okay, but he just says he's tired from his run. And then in the lineup in the barn, we learn that Warren's worked back-to-back shifts. So then I'm going to kind of cut in here and talk about the incident, because the incident was basically just another vehicle for Ben to
Yeah.
exercise
Yeah.
his angst, wasn't it? And sort of
Right.
led into what comes after. So on this call, it's Ben, Travis, and Dean, and they've gone to a lady's house because she has her hand stuck in the waste disposal unit. So she's very nervous and she's speaking at a mile a minute. And Travis says that he's going to dismantle it from underneath because that's the safest way to get her hand out. And tells her that she's lucked out because Warren's a surgeon. But that only makes her panic more because she thinks that Travis is trying to tell her that she's going to have her fingers surgically reattached. And she explains that she had the waste disposal on while she was doing the washing up, and she knocked her wedding ring down there and instinctively went to grab it, and that she can't believe how dumb she was in doing so. But her sardonic monosyllabic teenager, who hasn't looked up from her phone the whole time that they've been there, says that she can believe that her mother was that dumb. And then Travis has a moment of panic when dismantling the waste disposal because he locates something that feels suspiciously like a finger, but it turns out to be a carrot. And the poor woman's still disinterested daughter says that she's going to go out now since the firefighters are here to help. And then her mum at that moment spots a new tattoo on her daughter's wrist, which is beautifully done, by the way. Oh, yes, you have a tattoo in a similar place. Yours is the name of your children. Hers is the name of some boy that she happens to have a crush on at this point in time. It says Billy in italics, and it's looking decidedly red and angry. And whilst she's in full parental tattoos are forever rant mode, the mother that is, the waste disposal unit starts itself up again, causing her to scream and for her kids to laugh.
And everybody else will scream.
But it turns out the daughter's poor attitude is down to the fact that her other mum, who it turns out is in the services, has been deployed again. And this poor woman elicits a very knowing look from Warren when she says that you don't realise how much you rely on your partner until they're not there.
Yeah.
Dean goes to check on the dodgy Billy tattoo and gives the kid a little pep talk, saying that although her mum might be tough, at least she cares enough to try, and that's not nothing. And meanwhile, the mum is starting to freak out. So the guys give her a little pep talk and try and tell her that she's got this, but she says she doesn't. And although her wife tells her all the time that she's the strong one, she's not. She just brushes a lot of things under the carpet a lot of the time, just brushes things off a lot of the time. But her kid's treating her like crap because they both miss her wife, and she's constantly scared that her wife might not come home and that she's screwing her kid up.
Mm-hmm.
And then Warren says that he knows how things can get overwhelming and it eventually gets impossible to brush things off. And he's been brushing things off for days by running for miles and miles. And he's now mangled his feet. So he knows how it feels when things are falling apart, but that she is strong. And Dean chimes in that she's doing a great job and that his parents wouldn't have handled the Billy situation like she did under any circumstances, let alone with one hand stuck in a waste disposal unit. And then they manage to extricate her hand and patch her up, and she makes up with her kid. And then at the end, she thanks Warren and tells him to take care of his feet, wishing him the best of luck with all the running. And then in the aid car on the way back, Travis tackles Warren, work wife to work wife, about the extra shifts he's taken on and all the running. And Warren finally tells Travis and Dean about the temporary separation from Miranda, saying that he needs to give it to her for her health, that it's not doing much for him. And he confides in them that he's been sleeping at the station because he doesn't have a home to go to right now.
Yeah.
When they arrive back in the barn, Dean, I need my personal space. I don't even like hugs, Miller,
I
grabs.
love that hug.
Oh my God. It was such a big, that was an I mean it hug.
It was.
He just grabs him and holds on to him very, very, very tightly. And then we close out the show with Dean moving Warren and his little suitcase into the houseboat, saying anything he needs, Dean and Jack have him. And then we see Ben pounding the pavement again, but this time he's flanked by the boys.
Yeah. Those were beautiful scenes.
Really, really gorgeous scenes.
Yes.
Dean, however, Dean Miller was brilliant in this episode, don't get me wrong, but he is no longer perfect to me. Because during the lineup, he says that B Shift are weird because they have breakfast for dinner. And
Who doesn't have breakfast for dinner sometimes? It's Brenner.
That's exactly it. It's Brenner. We've discussed this before, I think, and that's what I call it. I call it Brenner, and it is one of my favourite things in the world. So he has lost some points with me. I felt attacked.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. Thank you.
Something you and Andy have in common.
Yeah. And again, it's just a small thing, but I love how they just this show just throws same-sex couples into the storyline.
Yeah, like it could have been that lady's husband, right?
Yeah, and the storyline has nothing to do with her sexuality at all.
Right.
And although we panned it, even episode 106 had a girl that was in love with her female friend, and they could have just as easily made it an opposite sex couple, but they didn't. And as you say, in this episode, just swapping the word wife for husband would have changed literally nothing about the episode whatsoever. It would have been the exact same episode, but just switching that out and having her say wife instead of husband just, makes the world of difference to people like me. Just to casually hear that.
Of course.
So it did nothing except make some people's little gay hearts skip a beat. Right. So whoever makes those decisions, thanks, keep making them. It's a tiny little thing and it just makes the world of difference. So there's that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's very awesome.
Warren, bless him, he's always the father figure, isn't he? And they even call him dad. And he tried so hard to help Vic with her fear of fire. Even when she didn't want it. But he is so reluctant to ask for help or share his own problems with the team. Do you think that this is because of the way men generally are socialized to kind of be the strong one or not talk about things? Or do you think it's because he sees himself as the dad, as the caretaker, and so he doesn't want to burden people? He feels that he should be the fixer, not the fixie.
I think it's both. I think he's ashamed of it. There's a certain amount of shame and separation, and he's not ready to share that. And I think also sharing it makes it more real.
Yeah.
Once you say it out loud and you realize it's real, it kind of makes it more official. And so I think keeping it kind of burying it and pushing it down makes it more tolerable.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Just my opinion.
No, I think that's a really valid point that you raise.
I get those sometimes.
You get them all the time.
They just weasel in.
just a little bit of genius floating its way in. Then you see a squirrel.
Or a Merle.
Yeah.
One or the other.
But I've only got good things to say, really, about the way male love is portrayed in this show. And I think that this episode is kind of a really good example of that again, this kind of brotherly love that they have. And again, it's Dean who, along with Travis, gets to the bottom of Warren's issue. And then immediately, Dean does what he needs to do to
Yeah.
help and resolve it. So we see time and time again, like Dean prizes his personal space more than anything, except the people that he loves. And
Yeah.
so he gives it up
Yeah.
willingly for Warren. And I just love the way that love between men is shown on this show to be the way that it should be.
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
that Dean goes and just grabs Warren and holds on to him. And
You could tell that was like a real hug. That was like a tight hug.
that was a proper hug.
Yeah.
And the masculinity in this show is only ever toxic when they're showing toxic people. So like Dixon,
Right.
you know, and he's just an all-round douche. But there's no toxic masculinity among our heroes, among the men in the station. They love each other and treat each other and talk to each other and help each other out and are affectionate with each other in the same way that they are with their female colleagues and that their female colleagues are with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really important to portray.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't think it's done often enough or well enough on TV. And I think especially because these are like really like macho guys as well.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
muscle-bound, hunky guys running into burning buildings who also tell each other they love each other and give each other cuddles.
Travis was a little empathetic too, though. When they got in and he put the headset on, he was like, "So you're running a lot." Like he was trying to initiate
Absolutely, yeah.
So he was too. I appreciated that Travis for that.
Yeah, work wife to work wife.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
all good things to say. Did you have anything else that you wanted to raise about the episode, about Warren, about anything to do with this one, or shall we sum it up?
no, after talking about it for the third time, it became a little bit. I enjoyed the episode a little bit more
Yeah.
the more we talked about it.
Well, that's good. That's positive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see any themes in this one?
I don't know, camaraderie maybe.
Yeah.
Could be. You could see that in different situations, being there for each other. You know, Jack being there for Vic and Travis and Dean being there for Jack. So, and then Pruitt kind of being there for Sullivan, Andy and Maya being there for each other. Probably camaraderie or teamwork or team building, stuff like that.
Well, along the same lines, I've said asking for or accepting help and the benefits of not going it alone.
Okay.
Because we had Vic asking for Jack's advice. Ryan has help with his dad from Andy and Pruitt. And then Andy has Maya as her sounding board. As you say, Sullivan accepted help from Pruitt of how to move forward. And Ben starts out the day alone and struggling. And he's only got his mangled feet to show for it. But when he lets people in and when he asks for help and accepts help, he ends up with a place to stay and the support of his friends.
Right. Right.
So the only people in the episode who've been holding back and kind of being dishonest or dishonest by omission are Jack and Greg, because Jack hasn't really been honest about his PTSD.
Yeah.
And Greg hasn't been honest with Ryan about his situation. And we can see how life is going for them. Jack's not sleeping and is having horrendous nightmares. And Greg's getting kicked about physically by people outside and emotionally by Ryan and everyone else that joined in inside. So I think maybe like the moral of the story is, you know, ask for help and then accept the help and things will go much better for you, because nobody can do life alone. Because
which is hard. Asking for help is like one of the hardest things I think any person can do, right?
Yeah.
Is asking for help and accepting help.
Yeah.
So props to be able to do that.
What are your takeaways from this episode? What are you looking forward to in episodes to come?
How Maya stays at 23.
Or 19?
Yeah, that's what I meant. God, 19. That she doesn't go to 23. Um, the continued spice between both Ripley and Vic and Sullivan and Andy, because I feel like the spice between Sullivan and Andy is really starting to
Yeah.
show. And if Jack gets the help he needs, and if he does get the help, does it really help him, or does he just cover it up and say, "I'm doing counseling, I can come back to work"?
Yeah. For me, it's all just Ben and Miranda, really, going forward. I can't remember how they resolve their marital issue, and I don't know how you can
Yeah.
resolve an issue like this. So,
Right.
because it's not going away, right, unless he quits his job.
Right. Which we know he's
Which we know
not.
he's
So
not. So
what
yeah,
happens?
so
Yeah.
so I can't remember how they resolve this. So I'm looking forward to seeing
Yeah.
what goes on there.
Yeah, for
Who did
sure.
you think had the most growth in this episode? I'm going to be interested to see if you say the same person as you said last time, because I've just remembered who you said last time.
Probably Sullivan.
Hey, you were consistent.
Yep. What about you?
Ben. I thought Ben
Okay.
did, because he, as I say, he started out the day just running away from things. I mean, literally. And then, let himself be vulnerable, asked for help, and then, moved in with the boys and let himself be taken care of for once.
Yep. Yep. I agree. That's a good point too.
And what about the best scene for you?
It's got to be the Dean Ben hug.
That's exactly what I've put as well. Dean hugging
Yeah,
Ben.
that hug. That was a good hug.
Yeah. It made my eyes somewhat leaky.
Yeah, a little bit watery.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the one I went for too. And then for you, best line or best piece of dialogue?
It's a carrot. It's okay. It's a carrot.
Was a good one. My favourite line also came from the kitchen, but I went with "Good luck with all the running,"
Yeah, that's a good one.
because I just thought that there was a lot of depth in that line, and I think that the way that Jason George and the actress whose name I did not make a note of because I'm terrible at this, and I should have done so because she was very good. But the way that they looked at each other, I found really touching, and the way that she delivered that line and he accepted it,
Mm-hmm.
I just thought was
Mm-hmm.
just a bit of understated brilliance. So that was
Yeah,
mine.
I agree.
Who was your MVP?
Mm, probably Jason George.
Same Zeus. Yeah,
Okay,
he had a lot of heavy lifting to do, and
he did.
he did well. And lastly, your most gifable moment from this episode.
I had one earlier that I was like, "Ooh, that's gonna be my giftable moment." And now I can't remember what it was.
Squirrel.
It was a funny one, and now I don't remember what it was.
Shall I tell you what mine are and then see if it comes back to you?
Yeah, you can.
I had two because initially I thought that Jack trying to stretch was untoppable. And then I
Mm-hmm.
remembered the girls rubbing themselves all over the engine when they came in all
Oh,
dusty.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I can't choose between that. Both of those were funny.
Um, I still don't remember what mine was.
That's so annoying because you normally pick serious ones, and I was excited by the fact that you'd chosen a funny one.
It was funny, and I can't remember what it was. Darn it all! I should have written it down when I had it. Because we were talking, and I'm like, "That's gonna be my moment," because that's hilarious. And now I can't remember what it was. I don't know. I honestly don't remember. Shoot, I'm going to have to start writing this stuff down. Well, while I remember.
There's an idea.
Yeah, but what a thought.
Oh, you're funny. Oh, well,
So,
next week, maybe you can write some stuff down. For next week, when we do 207, Weather the Storm, which is the winter finale. And it says, a violent storm is blowing in Seattle while the crew is having a party. When the storm gets momentum, the crew has to abandon the party to take care of emergencies that risk their lives. Dun, dun, dun.
dun, 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 dun.
So that will
Yep.
be our last recap before we take a break, not from the podcast, but from the breakdowns, because we are then going to do a spotlight episode, aren't we?
Yeah, which a lot of people have been asking about the next spotlight. So I think people really liked it.
Yeah. So due to demand, we will do a spotlight on, and we're going to do something that we've spoken about, I think, literally since the first episode we did. I think we might have mentioned lost storylines.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that's upcoming, guys. So we need to prep for that ASAP. So I've got a list of stuff that I think has been missed or forgotten or neglected in the writer's room. I think Tiffany's got a handful of things as well to add to it. So if you guys have any lost storylines that you can think of, things that weren't covered or were glazed over, or things we heard of and then disappeared, never to be seen again, write in and let us know. So all of our contact details are on our link tree, which you can click on in our bio. But I think off the top of my head, Tiffany will hopefully tell me if I've got any of this wrong. You can email us on podcast.station19@gmail.com.
At gmail.com. Yep.
You can get in touch with us on Instagram at Station 19 Podcast. And we are technically on Twitter. I'm not very good at Twitter. Tiffany's a little bit better at Twitter than me.
I'm on a little bit more than you are, yeah.
I mean, it's not hard to be on it a little bit more than me.
I'm not on it as much as I used to be on it because there's a lot of drama, but I'll go on it every once in a while just to kind of just see.
But we're on Twitter, and we are at Station 19 Pod on Twitter. Mm-hmm. So get in touch. Let us know of any lost, missed, neglected, whatever storylines that you can think of that you would like us to talk about in this episode. And as always, if you write to us and let us know who you are with those suggestions, we will credit you in the episode.
Yes, of course.
So, are we done?
Are we done?
For the third.
I think so.
For the third time.
For the third time. All right. I better hit stop before it breaks.
Yeah, quick. And yeah, I'll try and get this edited and get it out ASAP. And then I shall see you next time, where we shall weather the storm of the winter finale together.
Ooh, I like it. That was a good one.
Squirrel.
Okay. Right. Merle. Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.